So what if it took you 30 years just to get back to zero? My guest today spent a decade building a multi-million dollar business with his brother, and then he had to close the doors. He walked away with $285,000 of debt that his parents co-signed on, which meant bankruptcy was never an option. At his lowest, he had $142 to his name, maxed out credit card, wife, a 1 year old, a 5 year old, at a home that was 800 square feet. He had zero interest in the insurance industry. Today, 13 years later, he leads the Smith Agency at Symmetry Financial Group. Every dollar of that debt's been paid off within a year and a half of going all in. And a milestone year he never got to celebrate with the person who mattered most. You'll hear why that is and why his calling is living an authentic life through the insurance industry. This is a conversation about building a goal big enough to pull you forward, getting around the right people, and finding a reason to get excited about the future again, even when life takes the future you had planned. Brad Smith, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here. What an
Excited to have
intro.
you on, excited to have you on the hashtag Clockedin Podcast. Bef- but before we touch on any of the success, take me back to the day that you and your brother closed the doors on that business. 10 years of your life, 285,000 of debt, your parents' names on the loan. Walk me through what that actually felt like for you.
Yeah, it was hard to understand the weight of that day. There were 17 full-time employees that we had to have the conversation that this is your last day. Let's go out for pizza and have a beer, and this is it. And it was like 10 years of life, like hard work, long hours, late nights, money invested, a lot of debt, and it's like all for nothing after 10 years. So that was, I think anyone that's owned a business or even given a lot of their life to a big career, you attach your identity to it. And so when
100%.
that business was gone, it's like I don't even know who I am anymore. The person that I thought I was, I don't even know, like, who am I? And I think a lot of us attach our identity to our future. And so when that future and that vision is gone, it disappears, it's hard to, you know,
It's
it's a lot.
devastating.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
devastating.
it's
Yep.
it's like a death or a divorce or a family. It's really, really challenging for us because we just have so many things. And a lot of the work I do with coaching is a lot about identity stuff because there's so many of us that just don't realize that we're running from an old identity. So, Brad, for you, how did you start to get out of that and start to climb out of it? Was it the next day? You gave yourself 6 months? What'd you do?
Um, well, you have to give yourself a little grace. I've learned that because
100%.
there's been a few times where I've had some major, major loss in my life where my identity was like it's an identity crisis, and you have to give yourself a little bit of grace. But you have to get in a place where you can start dreaming again and start imagining a bright future, and remind yourself that the best days can be ahead of you, not behind you. So, I at that point, I even though things were really bad, I hadn't lost hope. It was probably good for my ego. I became very humble, and I just started looking at who's having success, who has the lifestyle that I'm looking for, and I started doing interviews for the first time in my life since high school. I'd always been the one to do interviews, but now I'm being interviewed, and and I was just looking for who's got the lifestyle that I want. And once I found something, it's not like I immediately knew this is it, like for the rest of my life, that it's going to be
Yeah.
in insurance. But there was at that point in my life, I was kind of looking at different options and different career choices. I'm not like an opportunity hopper where I just go from one thing to the next. Once I decide that I want to do something, like really decide I want to do something, I give it everything I have. And there was a time that I was sitting down with my father-in-law, and my father-in-law is a farmer. So we live out in the country. We live right on the family property, almost 400 acres, and I've always had a lot of respect for him. I don't think he ever uh, I think he finished high school and that's about it. But
Wow.
he's a multimillionaire with no debt, and I always looked up to him and his success. And there was a day that we went and played poker with his friends, and we sat down around this poker table, and everybody's folding when the pot got to $5, and they're wearing like John Deere hats and muddy boots and plaid shirts, and just really good guys. But no, I didn't think any of them had money. And at the end of the poker game, everyone left, and he said, "Would you believe that other than you, I was the poorest person at that table. And I was like, what? How is that possible? And he was probably worth $5 million at that point.
Oh,
And
wow.
he said the guy to my left, uh, he was worth about 10 million. He made his money in oil. The guy to his left was worth about 25 to 30 million. He made his money in cattle. He has about 6,000 acres and 6,000 head of cattle. The guy to his left just sold his car business for $200 million.
Oh,
And he
wow.
still owns all the property and leases it back to the new owners. And he said, you know what they all have in common? They all found something that was worth getting good at and spent their life becoming a professional. You need to find a career that's worth getting good at and spend enough time to become a professional. And it was right at that time that I found the insurance industry and I found the company that I'm with, still to this day. I've been with the same company for 13 and a half years. And I remember those words, and I remember sitting down with the people that I was interviewing with and asking that question, what is their lifestyle? And they were making the income that I wanted to make. They had the time freedom. They had purpose. They were smiling. They were happy. They seemed fulfilled. They had everything that I wanted. And I was like, okay, maybe this is it. And I just kept going down that path. Sometimes you have to just go through doors, not knowing exactly where they lead, but it just feels like it's the right door to go through at that time. And if it starts checking the boxes, and I think it's important to know what is important to you? What are you looking for? If you're just going based off of a feeling, that's not enough. There were certain things that were important to me, and I just started checking off the boxes. So, and this is a long answer to your question, but uh, how do you get out of that? You have to start being able to see a different future, and it takes going through some doors, meeting people, having those conversations, and start to just kind of get yourself to think, what could my future look like? Is that something I want for myself? How is this going to benefit my family? And pretty soon, life starts getting exciting again. You start becoming positive and optimistic, and yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway I got from that is the redefinition of success. Because most people are like, I want a new job because this guy's going to make this much money. I'll make this much money or that much. And it's nothing about the money. It's about what's the long-term vision that you see for yourself. And that's why when I work with clients, we always go, what's your 5-year vision? We need to work backwards. If it doesn't include this, you might need a new job, new role, new business. Not one's
well,
good or bad, but yeah.
what you said is so important, redefining what success is for you. I was not, and I can say this reflecting back. I didn't know this at the time, but I wasn't chasing money. I wasn't, it was part, I wanted to make a great income. Here's the three things, and I'm gonna make this full circle. Edward Pritchett was the guy that interviewed with me. He's been my mentor. He was the number one guy in the company. He's become massively successful. His agency does probably 5 million a month right now. And he asked me, what are you looking for? And here's what's funny. Most people that are sitting down looking at an opportunity, doing an interview, they don't know what they're looking for. They know what they're looking to get away from. They know what they're running from, but they're not running toward anything. And I actually had the answer. There was three things. I said, I want to help people because to me, I don't feel like I want to have purpose and I want to be passionate about what I do. And I can have purpose. So number one was actually purpose. And I want to be passionate about what I do, but I can't do that without helping people. So I need to be able to help people. And number three is I want to make a lot of money doing those things. So money was on the list, but here was the bigger thing I was chasing: identity. There was a certain identity that I wanted for myself. I wanted to become a certain person. And I think a lot of us in life have a hero that we look up to, different people that have influenced us throughout our life. And there was a couple people that I always looked at like, man, I want to be like them when I grow up. When I get older, I want to, and it
Yeah.
wasn't just rich people. It was people who made a lot of impact. And those people also made a lot of money because it's hard to make, you can make a big impact without having money, but it's a lot easier to make an impact when you have money. So there was an identity that I was chasing, and I started to be able to see, you know what? I want to be a little bit more like that person. And that's what kind of led me down that path.
And I think you're bringing up a really good point because when I do the identity work with people, it's like, hey, let's look at a leader. Who's a leader that you like? And people have like 8 different people. Cool. What is one attribute from each of those leaders that can apply to your life? Like, I like how charismatic that guy is, or I like how energetic this person is. And I'm just saying this so that the audience, if they're thinking about identity and creating this, they can do that on their own. But it's a way to really think about it because it's not so much I need that person's life. I like what that person has to offer, and you might not like everything about the person, but it's okay to like a good amount of the stuff, because not everyone's perfect.
100%. And that's when life starts getting more exciting. That's when you can start visualizing who you want to become. To me, that's the part about my vision of the future that kind of pulls me. There's a lot of things in life that push you, like debt and bills and things that are just like they're draining to think about. But when you can get pulled and to be pulled, it's an identity that you're chasing. That's going to pull you. So to me, there's a big difference.
So
In internal.
you're in this moment where you have 285 debt, which is pulling you down. And
Exactly.
then you're in that same moment where you're just like, I'm trying to be pulled, that's pushing you down. And then the other one's like, I'm trying to pull myself to this higher level version of myself.
It's the difference between internal motivation and external motivation. There was a
Okay.
lot in my life that I was externally motivated, but it was all those things that you talked about, the debt and the bills but internal motivation is the strongest, and Tony Robbins talks about this, that the strongest human motivator is the desire to be true to who you are.
Yeah.
So
Living that
desire to be
authentic life.
exactly. And that's and there was a time that there was like an aha moment for me, and it was when my brother and I were doing a conference call for our team, and we got off the call. And the call that we did, I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of your listeners and viewers have done this, where you've maybe created a vision board, and
Yeah.
you put on the vision board your dream house and your dream cars and your dream vacations and all the material things that we all think, when I get those things, I'm going to be happy. And we got off this call after doing this, and we're just like, you know what? We're so motivated, but it's not because we're picturing a house or picturing cars or picturing all those things. What is it that is, why are we so motivated? And we talk through, and it's like, well, because the person that I know who I am on the inside does not reflect my circumstances right now. I have always thought of myself as a good business person, a good husband, a good father, a good community member, all the things. It's like, this is who I am, but nothing in my life is saying that. I'm a terrible business person. I'm not being a good father. I'm not being a good husband because of the situation that I've created for my life. And that was the motivation. It's like this draw to be true to who I am. I had to fix everything. So, uh, that's a little
No,
bit off on a tangent, but that's where that motivation came from for me.
but that's important because there's many people listening right now who might be at rock bottom and they're like, how do I even get out of this? How do I even think about this? And I love the fact that you took more than a normal decision time because what I've realized when coaching people, the decision time on a big decision should be a lot longer. Like some people go get a car, like they're gonna grab a Reese's or a Snickers, like, or they're gonna be like, I'm gonna take 5 hours for the car. The car is like a much bigger purchase than the Snickers. Just because the car dealership is open for 10 hours, maybe you should do some research on the side, see what financially works, what you want to have so that you can go through these things. And then even making a job is an even bigger decision. And most of us are just like, yeah, seems better. I'm in. Let's do it. And it's like, dude, you, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
That's right. Easy in, easy out.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize that that's kind of the journey that gets us going. So, how did you and your brother really get started in insurance? Like when you started, was it like we are paying down this debt? How did you get that done in a year and a half?
Well, okay, so it's $285,000 in debt. We ended up settling the debt for probably around 170. So I was getting collection call after collection call after collection call, and I was answering them. Most people don't answer them. I was answering. I was like, I'm not trying to avoid you guys. I'm gonna pay it eventually. I just don't have any money. And but then as I'm selling and as I'm, building up a few $1,000 in my account, get up to five or six, $7,000 in my account, I'd get a call and a credit card would say, you're past due with this credit card, it's $7,000. And I would say, well, I can give you 2,500. I'll give it to you today. And that's just how I did it. And they accepted the offer, got the credit card paid off, and it was just one after another, after another, after another, until we eventually, after 18 months. But it was very intentional. It was very intentional. Like we looked at the promotional guidelines, we looked at the commission grids and we mapped it out and said, okay, this is what we want to accomplish. This is what we're going to have to do to get that. It wasn't just crossing our fingers and hoping it would work. It was, and you know what? I'm not an analytical kind of person, but I
Yeah.
think when you're under so much pressure, sometimes like that analytical side just comes out and I put stuff on spreadsheets. But here's what it did. I mapped out January, February, March, April, May, June, and I mapped out what every month what I wanted to accomplish. And here's what it did. I started to be able to see it. And we always say seeing is believing. And once you
Yeah.
believe it, once you believe you can accomplish that, there's something changes in your work ethic. Something changes. Like I didn't need an alarm clock anymore to get me out of bed. And we started to build an agency and build a team around it. And yeah, within 18 months, we just had so much momentum that we paid off that last dollar of debt, and it was the best feeling in the world. I mean, I can't even explain to you the peace, it's like even food tasted better, colors got brighter, like everything got better in my life.
Well,
Just
I think it's so important because there's so many, I have friends of mine, a lot of them, that are like, I have $200,000 saved up. I still have 20 grand of student loan debt. And then they're like, why would I ever pay that off? And it's like, dude, once you pay that stuff off, the peace of mind goes, wait, there's no one pulling at my money this month? There's really just me here. Like I'm a person and you don't realize it, but you probably felt better hitting zero than when you went on your trajectory and started making 100, 200, 500 a minute. Like that's the biggest point, and you feel the richest you've ever been in that moment. And you're like,
I mean, you don't even realize the weight that it has on you. Um, and I know that there's people on this call that are in like a survival mode, which is where I was when I started the business. I was absolutely in survival mode. You are reactionary to everything. You're constantly thinking about the debt, the stress. You're waking up at 2 in the morning. You've got this pit in your chest that just won't go away. And I remember being in that position. And you know what? It's like 90% of your conversations with your spouse is about money. And every argument, it's about money. And when you can start having some hope and some progress, here's what I realized. I used to think that I had to have that lifestyle that I was chasing in order to be happy. And I realized when I was in that 800 square foot house, built in the 50s, never up. I told you this earlier. The floor was sinking, the ceilings were sinking. My daughter's bedroom, you could put a ball on one side and it would roll to the other side because it was literally sinking down to the ground on one side. And I was happy. I was happy 6 months after moving to that house, not because of the situation, not because of I had accomplished, I didn't have the house that I wanted or the cars that I wanted, but I had hope and I had progress. I was able to see that we are paying down this debt. We're starting to put a little money in the bank account. The team is growing, and just having that progress and the hope that it's just a matter of time now. Man, it
and I completely agree. I think it's all about the journey. The destination is just an output because if you wait so much for the destination, you're
yeah,
gonna put yourself in this stressful moment where it's like, I got it, now what? And that happens to so many people because they don't have that bigger vision to pull them forward.
100%. Absolutely. So that's why I get passionate about what I do. I'm not passionate about the insurance industry necessarily. I liked helping families and protecting families, but where I've really gotten passionate is helping people that are in a similar position that I was. Maybe they're not almost 300,000 in debt, but they've lost some hope. They don't have direction because man, when you can have that kind of an impact in somebody's life, it's life changing. Just like Edward had in my life. Um, that's why I get passionate about what I do.
I love it. And when you started, Edward was doing, how much was he doing in his agency? And then you guys were like, Yeah, like maybe we could do a little bit more.
Well, I mean, all you can believe is possible is what you can see. And so Edward Pritchett at the time, the company was only a couple years old, and Edward was doing 300,000 a month, and he was number one in the company. And we were just like, man, I mean, that meant he was making about 300,000 a year and had a good lifestyle. So we said as soon as we started, we said, we're going to build an agency to 300,000 a month, just like Edward did. And Edward is the one that said, why would you cap yourself at 300,000 a month? You know that there's other agencies and different companies that are doing 2 million a month. And
And
when
well, that right there is true leadership. That's where you go, dude, just because I'm somewhere, that doesn't mean that you're cat. Like, you have to believe in the bigger vision. Otherwise, you're not going to want the opportunity. Yeah.
exactly. And I've always just been a big believer that if someone else can do it, I can too. I just need to learn what they did and do what they did, and I can have what they have. And and I believe that's possible for anybody. So when we realized that somebody had built, and there's lots of them that have built agencies much bigger than that now, but we said we're going to do that. We're going to keep building our agency until eventually we get to 2 million a month. And then we're going to set it higher at that point, but we're going to go as far as we can see, and then once we get there, we're going to be able to see further and set the new goal after that.
And how hard was that? Because I mean, you're sitting there, you guys are like the two new guys, and you're like 2 million a month, and everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah, who are these guys? I mean, we didn't really know how much that was. It was way harder than we thought it was going to be. Uh,
It
but
always is. It
of
always
course,
is.
but I'm a big believer that you need to set goals that are questionably obtainable.
Yeah, I like
If you
that.
know for a fact you can hit it, then it's not exciting. It's like that's boring. Like I want to, but I also think that you shouldn't set a goal that you really don't believe is possible. There's a
Yes.
sweet spot that's like, okay, I think I can hit that. I think eventually I can hit that. And if I do, man, would my life be great. Who
Yeah.
and who would I have to become? Who would I have to grow into in order to accomplish that? That's exciting too.
I think that's a much better question. Because a lot of people are like, who do I have to meet? What do I have to do? Who do I have to become? What a better question.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at a big goal, it's like, what does that person have to be doing? Who do they have to do? How do they have to show up? How do they have to lead? Yeah.
Yeah, because we know John Maxwell talks about a lot of people talk about you have to grow into the person that can build that business because your business will never outgrow you. You will
Yeah.
always be the ceiling to your business. So when I realized that, to me, that's liberating because if it's all on me, if it's not dependent on someone else and some other circumstances, and if it's all on me, I can control me. I can grow myself.
I completely agree. I think there's a book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, and he
Yeah.
talks about that moment of extreme accountability. And in the book, he talks about how his team went out there. He was in the military, and his team went out there, and they ended up having like a friendly fire, which is basically when they shoot their own person. And his boss, his higher up in the military, was basically like, "Whose fault was that?" And Jocko goes, "It's my fault." And everyone's like, dude, Jocko, you weren't even out there with the team. How could it be your fault? He goes, I trained those men. This is my fault. This is my thing. And a lot of leaders aren't willing to take that blame. You know what I mean? Most of them are just going to start screaming at the other guy, point and blame someone else instead of being that leader that you really need and being like, I led this team to a demise. It's my
Yeah.
fault.
That is to me the kind of leader I would want to follow.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. So when you got into it with Matt and you guys started building that business together in the insurance space, how did that journey go for you?
so we were, I mean, here's the thing, like if you want to build a big business, you've got to cast a big enough vision that other people can fit inside of. And so many people, their vision is to get out of debt. It's to make a certain amount of income. It's like I want to make a few $100,000 a year. I don't need to get crazy. Well, if I heard that that was somebody's vision, I don't see how I can fit inside of that vision. That's not compelling enough for me. So you might recruit some people, but you're not going to get anybody like really excited to follow you. And so, once we realized, okay, we want to build a business to 2 million a month, we're going to have this many people. It's going to create this many millionaires, and there's going to be this many people making six figures a year. And we can kind of like cast that vision. Now people are saying, well, I want to be a part of that. And
Yeah.
so what we said is in order to get to 2 million a month, we're going to have, and we kind of did the math, we're going to have help five people get to the top of this company.
Yeah.
And getting to the top of this company is at least $50,000 a month in personal income. So we're looking for five people who want to go with us and get to the top of this company. And so that was attractive enough to get some leaders in. And we went, in 8 months, we were doing 100,000 a month, 12 months, within 12 months, we were doing 200,000 a month. And then 18 months, we were doing 300,000. And then 24 months, 400,000. And it was just a stair step growth. Now we did have some years where we plateaued and then we grow again and plateau and grow again. But we, yeah, we were almost, and this is back to one of those times it was like uh, an identity crisis happened.
Yeah.
Um, because we were pushing, everything was going well, and then COVID hit. And when
Yeah.
when COVID hit, everything, the way we did business changed. You know this. Anybody that was in the industry, we were going into people's houses. We were, sitting at their kitchen tables, and all of a sudden, within 2 weeks, we had to pivot to virtual. And that was a nightmare. That was scary. I would get on the calls and be so certain, like we're gonna grow through this, and then I'd get off the call. I hope. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but we're gonna hopefully we can figure this out. And in
I mean that's a really good point right there because I think anyone going through change or challenges or anything, the true leaders are looking at this going, how can we make this an opportunity? Where the self-serving ones are like, hey, like it was better at the other way. Like, can we go back to the other way? Instead of sitting there and being really in it, like I'm not leaving this business. How can we build? How can we make this a better opportunity for us?
one of the things that I've realized, because there was a lot of people who are doing really well that aren't in the business anymore. And I've realized that the people who continue to grow, even through those times that are like uh, major shifts have to happen, it's flexibility. It's a willingness to be honest with where you're at and where things are at, and look into the future and say, okay, what pivots do we need to make? They're going to be painful. Change is always hard, but being willing to make that shift, um, because the ones who do are that much further ahead.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and the quicker you're willing to make that shift, it's going to be an even bigger change for you. Because most
yeah,
people aren't even willing and they're reluctant and they're still knocking doors and they're still doing that. Meanwhile, I mean, I just talked to 10 people across the country in a matter of 1 hour. How did that happen? Like,
exactly. Like after a couple of months of adjustments, our leaderboards were twice as big.
oh,
Because
wow.
yeah, I mean, there were people that were the most anyone was writing in a month was 30,000 a month, and then all of a sudden, after like COVID was, we were in COVID, people were writing 100 grand a month. Like
Wow.
lots of people writing 100 grand a month because there was new opportunities that opened up that we didn't even foresee. We were limited when we were working in a local market. We could only get leads in that local market.
Yeah.
And so there's only so many leads that could go around, but once we opened it up, there's no more borders anymore. Now we've got agents working multiple states and they're booking up their calendars like they never could before. So there was new opportunities, and so we made those adjustments. And yeah, so
Absolutely. And then, so you're still going on this journey to reach the 2 million. Did you end up getting to that point?
we did. Uh, we did. It didn't look quite the way I had imagined it. And this really is a testament to the power of a team. And sometimes when you cast a vision to your team and something happens, your team starts to take over, and that's exactly what happened. So, unfortunately, my twin brother Matt, my business partner, passed away uh,
Sorry to
because
hear
of
that.
because of COVID. Yeah, it was a complete shock. Hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. And we talk about how your identity is tied up into the future that you see. And he was in every part of it, every part of my future, from growing the business together, personal life, like everything. We did everything together. We talked 5 times a day, sometimes 10. And so not having him here, it was just it turned my world upside down. And I think the biggest month we'd ever had was like 1.7 million. So we were getting really close, and he passed away. And I had to take a little time off. Like I didn't take a ton of time off, but I had to check out for a little bit. And I got on a call that my team was hosting. They were still running calls, and it was the next month. And the biggest leader at the time in my team did a rallying cry. And he said, "We're going to push for 2 million. We're going to do it for Matt. We're going to do it to honor him." And he got the team all excited about it. Like, we're doing this. This was a goal of theirs um, from the beginning, and we're going to see it through. And after that call, I called this guy that was the bigger lead in the team, and I said, "Man, I so appreciate you. I love you for doing this. You're unbelievable. I really feel like you're setting the team up for failure. I don't think we've never hit it." He was like, "No, we got you. Hold on, just watch." And sure enough, the very month after he passed away September 14th, so the next month was October, and we hit 2 million for the first time. It was like 2.1 million. Like they blew past it. And it was the most unbelievable thing to watch. And I remember thinking, man, my team, I've got an awesome team. I've got an awesome team that they like it's one thing for people to push for their own goals, but when other people are pushing for your goal, it's hard for me to put into words. But yeah, and then we continued to grow after that too. So uh
I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, that was really vulnerable. I appreciate you sharing that because it gives people real context to what vision casting can look like, what leadership could really look like, what going through hard times could look like. You know what I mean? And it can be really challenging for a lot of us. And people on the call are definitely relating to this because they have moments in their life where they're like, I don't even know what to do. And most people don't have the team behind them or they're not on the right team. So when you're building a team and you're thinking about that, how do you think about bringing people on the team, thinking about building a team, empowering the team? How do you think about that?
well, to me, vision is a lot like a blueprint. A lot of people hear vision, they think it's a feeling. It's not a feeling. It's like a
Yeah,
blueprint. So if you're building a house, and a lot of people are, it's like 2 million a month. That's so bad. I can't even imagine it. But you realize, like, if you have a blueprint for a 2,000 square foot house versus a blueprint for a 10,000 square foot house,
yeah,
you realize they're not using bigger bricks. They're not heavier and bigger. There's just more bricks. So you got to break it down to what are the bricks of our business? And the bricks of our business, to me, are in my business, it's people that we call team leaders. And they're new builders, they're doing production, but they're also doing recruiting. They've got a couple of new recruits in their team. And if I can help somebody become a team leader, and then I can teach them how to build another team leader, those are building blocks.
yeah,
Those are multiple. So the difference between a 2,000 square foot house and a 10, you have to have a bigger blueprint and more bricks.
yeah,
So, but if you have to have a whole team of people. I can't build a 10,000 square foot house by myself. But if I want to recruit other people to help me build that, I have to give them the blueprint.
yeah,
That's the vision.
yeah,
So, what is your vision? What are you trying to accomplish? You've got to know that so that you can communicate that. And I think
yeah,
that's where a lot of people miss it is they might even have a vision for their life and for their business and what that could look like, but they're not communicating that, and it's not compelling enough to bring other people with them. So,
yeah,
but to answer your question, to what does it look like to bring other people on? I want to let them know this is what we're building, this is what we're accomplishing, but I also want to know what they want. What do you
yes,
want? And because everybody comes into this business wanting something different.
yeah, of
And sometimes I have to like almost like peel back an onion because they haven't really thought about what they want. And they
course.
might, and some people say, I want to make 5,000 a month, and it's like 10, I want to make 20, and all of it's possible, but it's going to take a different recipe. Just like
Yeah,
baking a cake. You can have your cake turn out the exact same way as long as you know what recipe. You don't change the ingredients. So many people come into the business, well, I like this and I like that, but I don't want to do this. You're changing the recipe. It's not going to turn out the same. If you take eggs out of the recipe, it will not turn out the same. Or
Yeah.
you replace sugar with something else, it won't turn out the same. But if I can take somebody's goal and I can say, here's the recipe, and if you just follow this recipe, and then we put them into accountability and coaching and
Yeah.
and groom them, then that's how we onboard people.
No, I love it because it really comes down to the big challenge for a lot of people in general is also they make a big decision and they like saying it and it sounds nice, but they're not willing to sacrifice. Like there's things that you got to put on the sidelines. Like we can't talk to our friends during work hours. You're working from home, you still got to take this thing seriously. Like you have work hours. Like I was on a call with someone earlier today and they're like, I'm like, I saw you answered the email, like you accepted my invite at 2 a.m. Now they live in California and I'm in Tampa, so it was 11 p.m. But I'm like, why are you up until 11 p.m.? And they're like, well, like I'm just talking to my daughter, and I'm like, that's nice and everything, but like you have a goal. What are you gonna get 3 hours of sleep? Like, I'm sorry, you got to take your stuff seriously. Like, and going to sleep on a certain time is taking your business seriously, and people don't
100%.
realize that.
Yep.
There's too many people that are like, I don't get it. Like, works for Brad. Why is it not working for me? And it's like, are you looking at what he does every day? Are you making the sacrifices? Are you doing the changes? Are you following up? Are you doing the things? So, I mean, for you, Brad, if you have a seasoned guy in there and they start to run into plateauing or a little bit of a rut, how do you usually think about getting them out of that rut?
I usually start by and I don't remind them, but they remind themselves of why they started here in the first place. What are they trying to accomplish? And in our business, for at least for a producer, it always comes down to resources and activity. There's always it's that if you want to identify a problem, it's resources or activity. You're not getting enough leads, or you're not making enough dials. You're not sitting with enough people. If it's recruiting and building, you're not talking to enough people. You're not having enough recruiting conversations. Um, but a lot of times ruts come from, let's say you're building an agency and you just hit a plateau and people aren't following you. They're not doing what you're doing. That's a big frustration for people. Why don't people just do more of what I'm doing? I'm I'm getting the numbers, I'm producing, and they're not. And I think there's a transition that has to happen between you're producing next to people versus you're producing through people. That's where a producer becomes a leader. And I
That's yeah, no, that's a huge identity shift because it's like, why do they always take the top sales guy and make him the sales manager? And it's like, you most of the time they can't teach, they don't know the skill set, they don't even understand what they did. They go, I talked to the person. Like I've had many producers that I coach where they get on the phone with someone and I'm like, did you see what you did there? And they're like, no. I'm like, you called them sweetie, darling, you were super friendly, you had this approach, they opened up to you right away. Why don't you tell people about that? And they go, I didn't even know I did that. It's like,
It's true. It's like you gotta be able to start developing the people around you.
yeah.
And I used to just assume that people will learn just by watching,
Yeah.
and there's only so much. There's only so much. But if you have a plan of developing people, um, but I mean, there's lots of reasons we hit plateaus. I think it all comes back down to we've hit a ceiling.
Yeah.
And you have to take ownership. As a leader, you've got to be able to say, what could I do differently? You know, even if I get a plateau at 2 million a month as an agency, if we're plateaued at 2 million a month, what can I do? I can't point fingers at people on my team. I've got to look at me. Where do I need to grow?
I love that because it comes down to Brad. You ask yourself better questions, and everyone in the audience should be thinking about this when they get in times of moments of despair or upset or disappointed. Are you taking accountability for it? Like, if you're rich, are you taking accountability? Are you poor? Are you taking accountability? Overweight, in shape? Are you full accountability for everything going on? Because people start to realize that elevates their lifestyle. You know what I mean? That elevates their business, that elevates how you show up. And even by just realizing you're in a good energy space or higher energy, that's a good thing for you as well. And I think too many people miss that. So, Brad, on every podcast, I do something where it's Edwards Consulting. We have 5 pillars. So, I want to ask you about the pillars, and you tell me on a 1 to 10 where you're at, and maybe a reason why. So, Brad, for your mental health today, because we want to show that you're not a superhuman, we want to show that you're a normal guy. So, Brad, for mental health on a 1 to 10, where are you at today and why?
I would say I'm probably 7.5 to 8.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Um, and I would say if you asked me this 6 months ago, I would have said a 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just things stack up sometimes. Things stack up and they add stress and anxiety, and sometimes, and it can be for different reasons. It can be money, it can be a lack of growth. It can be relationship things, just things that aren't the way that you want them to be. It just adds stress. And there's several things that happen between around December and March. And, I was doing a big event with a couple thousand people, and we were doing a lot of planning. And then there was like one thing happened after another happened after another happened. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And some, I think when we get in those situations, we put so much focus on our current situation, and we just keep thinking about the problems, and we tend to magnify our problems in our life
Yeah.
and make them into much bigger things than they really are. And sometimes I just have to like remove myself a little bit, take a 30,000 foot view, give myself some perspective, and then remind myself of where I'm going, and then I get back into this. And then you also, at the time, I was um I was a little bit overweight, not bad, but not where I wanted to be. Um I felt like I had drifted a little bit spiritually. And so that some of those things too, they just add tension. You get out of balance.
It's the
So
no, I mean the reason that for the 5 pillars is that you're absolutely right. Like some things are a 10, some things are a 3. And if your business starts to explode, that's great. But then that doesn't mean that we throw our body away. And there's a debt that starts to compile, and it might not be a financial debt, but it's a debt on your body, or it's a debt on your relationship, or it's a debt on wherever, and you have to put the deposits in, positive deposits if you can, because it will help you get there. So I love that. I love that explanation. Physical health, 1 to 10. Where are we at right now? How do we feel? And just today.
probably an 8.5.
Okay, why do you say that?
Again, I was
Have you
about to
seen
say.
me? He's like, have you seen me?
No, I'm just making really good progress.
What are you doing exactly?
Just every morning I'm going to the gym, I'm working out, lifting weights, eating pretty healthy, eating a lot of protein, low sugar, and went from a 19 point something percent body fat down to 14.3 and
Oh,
working my way
nice.
up to 12 and just making really good progress.
I
So
think so. I just want to add this in because I know some of this stuff. But what Brad's basically getting at is you want to measure and monitor what you're doing. So if you don't measure, then you're not going to see the progress. So most people who are like, I'm looking to lose weight are like, I'm going to measure my weight. Brad has hit a second level where there's after a point you realize that you really shouldn't lose any more weight, and then you're going to start to put on muscle. So you start to measure body fat. So you measure a different parameter, a different input, because then it will help you keep that goal going in the right direction. And people don't do that, where they just say, I'm at my goal weight. Like, what do you want me to do? And it's like there's a body composition that goes on for most of us that we don't realize.
100%. Yeah, so I started going to a clinic and getting routine measurements, blood work, and looking at all the different levels of my blood and, like you're saying, muscle mass and all of it. So, and it's really encouraging when you can see that you're making progress, that no matter what area of your life, if you can see progress, it's like, okay, I'm going to keep going. This is working.
100%. The third one is community service philanthropy. I don't know if you, if that comes up right now. Some people are like, dude, I got 0. Some people are like, I'm a 10 plus. So for you, where are you at right now?
I would say, I would love to say I'm a 10 plus. I would say realistically, probably a 7.
Okay.
I mean, we make a lot of donations to like Make-A-Wish,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
yeah, but there's some other ones that I would like to start putting a plan around. I don't just like throw money at different charities, but I want to have some involvement so I can like feel the change instead of just like putting money toward the change. And there are some things that I want to start doing. There's a couple of charities that I'm looking at. I just need to put a plan together because I've got some friends that are just very intentional about that, and it's super inspiring. Super inspiring.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it makes a huge difference when you look at it and you go, hey, we're going to give a percentage of every commission that comes in. Percentage. It could be very small, very large. It really doesn't matter. You start to see the compounding of that, and you're like, holy smokes. Like, we just gave 500 grand to this organization and we built 27,000 homes in Africa or whatever it is. And then when you go on a trip like that, you're like, you start to see the other side of it.
It's life changing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I love that for you. And I would definitely challenge you to consider whatever that is. But I mean, even if you could fly out the group or something along those lines to see the actual impact, that'll
Yeah.
definitely be a cultivating thing. Instead of it being like, hey, we're going to go on this trip and party, it's like, we're going to go on this trip and actually see the impact that we're making from you selling insurance. Like, that's pretty
Right.
cool. Something a
Yep.
little different. And then relationships. Relationships can be in the business, personal, whatever you want them to be. What do you think about your relationships on like a 1 to 10?
It's hard for me to ever give a 10, but I'm going to say 9.5.
Okay,
My
so if you're 9.5, people are sitting there
it's
going, what do we have to do to be a 9.5? Like, what are you doing differently that allows you to have great relationships while others are like, what are you talking? Like, I can't get above a 3.
yeah, I think sometimes you think that to have a better relationship you need to spend more time, and I would say it's more quality time.
Yes,
And
100% agree.
so like when I'm with my daughter, instead of just being next to her, I'm actually helping her build a Lego set and working on it together. And or with my wife, it's focus time. It's not just we're on our phones, but we're actually talking together and sitting next to each other or going for a walk together. If it's with my friend, we're like last weekend we went mountain biking and it was, it's just doing stuff, with them. So my relationships, I feel like are just there's always room for improvement, but I feel like I'm just really tuned in with it's not with everybody, but with certain people, it's just really good.
I think the intentionality part I really like
Yep.
because so many people are like, oh, we hang out every night and we just watch 3 hours of television. And it's like, okay, that's good, I guess. Is that really what you want? Not good or bad. And I'm not saying people can't watch, I watch TV, but I'm just saying in general, like it's good to have that impactful stuff, especially when your time is pulled in a million different directions. It's like, how do we get the most out of this? And then the last one, spirituality. Where are you at on spirituality on a 1 to 10?
Um, I would say an 8.5. Uh, I'm definitely growing in that area. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so me and three other leaders in the company, we have a weekly Bible study, and that's really helped.
Yeah.
We study not just the Bible, but we study other books that help us, like study guides and stuff. And and just looking at where in my life, where do I feel like I need improvement? And a lot of it for me is uh, not just daily prayer, but prayer throughout the day, and and always seeking to have wisdom in everything I do, the decisions I make, the interactions I have, the conversations I have, always coming from a place of truth and honesty and not just personal gain and manipulation. So, but just having that constant thoughtful reflection um, has really helped. So I feel like it's about an 8.5. Again, still a lot of room for growth.
100%.
So,
And the thing that we don't realize sometimes is like our version of a 10 or our 8.5 or our whatever can be like, dude, I just getting started. You're not comparing this to somebody else. This is your number for you. So I just think that's really important to realize. And I like the weekly cadence because if you have a weekly cadence, it's like a reminder of like, oh, I skipped this. Oh, I got to get back on this or I got to think about this. But it also doesn't have to be, I got to go to church 27 times a day or go to temple 27 times a day. Some people relate them like that, but it could be even like I run into people and I pray for them or think about them in a positive way.
I can't tell you how impactful getting together with another group of people. a group of men for me that I highly respect that help hold you accountable to that too. And ask those questions that you're not asking yourself that man, it has affected every part of my business, my life, my relationships, my mental health, my
100%.
even my physical, my business. Every one of these five pillars affect everything, each
They
other.
they all stack
They
100%.
do.
And that's a lot of the stuff I do with group coaching where it's you start to have these different conversations. It's not biblically, but we just have conversations about like this week it was what holds your standard to a super high level. And then people start to share around. And when you get that group share, they're all like, whoa. But you definitely need a facilitator because when you have a facilitator, it's not like my turn, my turn. No, it's I'm going to call on the people and everyone speak, but everyone gets to share. And then half the time I ask them at the end, and this is something cool that the audience can do or you can do whenever you're in these group environments. I always ask people, what's your greatest benefit of this conversation? Like, what's your biggest takeaway, biggest insight? Half the time, it's not what I even talked about. They're like, Brad said this, and this really resonated with me. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, because it's not the me show, it's everybody else bringing in the wins together.
It definitely helps to have a group that you're reflecting with, and I would also say if you're looking for the quickest way to start getting momentum in your life, don't start with business, start with physical.
Yes.
This is for me because physical is something I can control. I can get, and I started going to the gym, even though I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel motivated to do it. I didn't even know what I was going to do when I got to the gym, but I convinced myself to just get in the car and go to the gym. Once I'm in the gym, now I'm in the environment and I've got other people working out. There's music playing. Now I'm in the right environment to actually start exercising. It's hard to grow a business when you don't feel good, and especially in what we do, there's a mental energy that you have, some positivity. The number one attribute for success in our industry is optimism. And it's hard to have optimism if you don't feel good. So I
Yes.
think if you can start getting physically a little more active, and then when you get momentum there, momentum is contagious. It starts to bleed over into other things. You start to, when you start getting consistent with that, you start becoming consistent with other things. So I always say if you want to start getting some traction, start physical and then let it bleed over to other areas of your life.
I love that. I mean, the biggest breakthrough for me was probably 2020. I did 75 hard, which is like when you don't drink for 75 days. You do two workouts, one indoor, one outdoor. I'm drink a gallon of water, read a personal development book. I was like wired, wired. So then by the end of it, I end up, funny enough, my first time going out again, I end up meeting the girl who ends up being my wife. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
wow.
And it's like, it was because I was in this headspace of like, I'm not giving up. Like, I'm gonna follow up. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna make this happen. And I'm like, this is just part of the journey. And people don't realize that when you're at a very high level physically, yes, some people take it a little too far and they don't ever focus on the business stuff. But there is a good component of like, hey, it's good to get in shape and you do feel better about yourself and it's just a lot easier. So Brad, where can people learn more about you? Where can they hear about the agency? What's the best way to get connected with them?
I would find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. I post regularly. You can find me. There's a scheduling link that you can schedule a time to talk to me if you want to on any of those platforms.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, and I really do look forward to this release. Thank you for the time.
Absolutely. It was fun doing it. Thanks a lot.